I'm really nervous. It's time. Hey guys, and welcome to Vlogmas Day 1. Yes, I will be participating in Vlogmas this year, and I am so excited to be uploading every single day until Christmas. How cool is that? So along this ride, we are going to get to know each other pretty well. And my whole aim of this Vlogmas is to open up more to you in the effort of helping some of you, and in the effort of sort of showing you my journey and my struggles, and hopefully inspiring some of you to take what I've learned on your own travels. But of course, in between all the serious stuff, there's going to be a lot of fun planned, so look forward to that. You would have already guessed from the title of this video that this video is going to be my eating disorder story. I don't even know where to begin. If you haven't watched any of my videos before, firstly, welcome. Secondly, subscribe. Thirdly, my name is Amy and I am 21 years old and I live in South Australia. I run my channel and my Instagram, my Facebook page called Amy Louise Fit, and I am just about to be a certified personal trainer. But I'm also at university studying a Bachelor of Health and Medical Sciences with a major in exercise science and hoping to sort of get into some research. That's just a bit of background about me. Now let's get on to the more heavier stuff. So to some of you, this will not come as a surprise because you knew about my eating disordered history. To some of you, this is going to come as a surprise, and some of you are going to know me and know me in my personal life and probably don't know any of this, and this is why it's scary. Some people, when they have eating disorders, are not shy about telling people what's going on and what's happening. That is a completely different story for me. I hid everything that was going on from pretty much anyone but my parents until this year. And it started when I was 8 years old. Properly started when I was 8 years old. I've had friends, I've had family members that had no idea that I've even had these issues because I've kept so quiet, because I guess I was ashamed. I was absolutely ashamed. All I wanted was to, have this perfect outside, and inside I was constantly falling apart. And so I guess in part, in opening up, it's A, proving to myself that I don't need to be ashamed of my past, and B, trying to end this stigma of mental illness, because it has got to stop. It is not okay. It never has been okay. And that's something I'm going to get into a little bit later, because I have experienced the stigma firsthand in a very big way, which I think is why I kept quiet for so long. But if anything, since opening up about my struggles with the eating disorder and anxiety and depression, I have had a lot of richness come into my life. I have had a lot of people that come into my life because of it, and I am eternally grateful for that. So this is why I am sharing this. I am very fidgety, so sorry, bear with me. I'm going to change where I sit like 100 times. I'm going to say the generic, nothing was wrong with me as a child. I was a happy child. I was an only child. I still am an only child. When I was growing up, I was always aware that there was something a little bit different about me, a little bit stranger that sort of separated me from my peers, and as a result, it did lead to me being quite a shy child. It's strange. I'm still kind of like it. I'm not shy, I'm just very reserved, but once you get to know me, I am very outgoing. You can probably tell from my videos I'm quite confident. I am not shy in front of the camera, but I've always been a little bit reserved, a little bit critical. This wasn't really a problem for me. I did often spend a lot of time wondering why I felt different than others, why I would spend time wanting to do puzzles and wanting to read books while everyone else was out playing or doing something, like kiddish. It really sort of came to a head when I was about 8 years old, and I just felt that I had no place in the world. And I sunk into a very deep depression. It was sort of existential depression. I didn't know why I was here. I didn't know what was in store for me, and I was very upset. I don't remember a lot about this time because, I'm 21 years old now. That was 13 years ago. I was very depressed. There aren't many photos of that time, but the ones that are there, you can just tell there's nothing going on in my eyes. I look dead behind the eyes. It's heartbreaking to see such a young person so empty. I had very dark circles under my eyes. I was very thin, because what started to happen is that in a way of coping with my depression, I felt that I needed to have some sort of control. And I must state here that everyone's eating disorders are very, very different. Some are more based on body dysmorphia and body image. Mine has nothing to do with that. It was never ever about the way that I looked. It was never about my body shape. It was always about feeling like I didn't have any control. I didn't care about the weight loss. I just wanted something that was mine. And so whether it was all in my head or whether it was a manifestation, a physical manifestation of the depression, I started to get these stomach aches all the time. And of course I didn't know what was going on with me, I was only a child, but I wouldn't eat much, I was very, very fussy. And so my parents took me to the doctor and they said, look, it could be something like celiac disease, why don't we take her to the hospital? So I went to the hospital, I got an endoscopy, I got something called a barrier meal, I think, which is like an internal x-ray, and they came back completely clear, and so they said, we think it's psychological, let's send her to a psychiatrist. So I got sent to a child psychiatrist, and straight away they gave me antidepressants. And this makes me really mad, to be honest. I didn't get a choice because I was just a child. My parents, of course, it's not their fault, they didn't know what to do, and so they just listened to the advice of the professional, but it was not the right thing to do. It wasn't. I was 8 years old and I was on antidepressants for 2 years, and that can't be healthy. And I would speak to this psychiatrist, and while I was speaking to her, I remember she would always purposely leave the door open about that bit so my parents could hear everything I was saying, and that just sort of leaves an effect on a child, and I believe that that's why I was still so tortured and I found it hard to get better properly. So after this I sort of fought my own internal battles for a while. I was very, very up and down. I gained a bit of weight, I think. I have a few photos I'm going to try and find and insert here. Life sort of went okay as I got to sort of 12, 13. Things picked up a little bit. I was still very, very thin, but I was happy, and I went on a holiday to England and I had a great time, and I sort of let myself loose. I ate whatever I wanted, but it's funny, I thought I properly developed my anxiety when I was about 16, but I can see looking back now that I was very, very anxious at those times. It sort of manifested itself as mild obsessive compulsive disorder. So what I would do at those times is, such an oxymoron, I had a Tamagotchi, and I would have to eat at exactly, like say it was lunch, I would have to eat when that Tamagotchi went exactly 12 o'clock to the minute, or else I felt that something bad would happen to me. If I was watching TV when I ate, I would have to pause while it was an advert. I wasn't allowed to eat until the advert stopped. I don't know why, I just created these rules for myself in order to feel better, and that's how I lived. It's not until I look back at that now and realise that that is anxiety, that is definitely anxiety. So around 2006, 2007, this anxiety sort of reared its ugly head again. I don't know what triggered it. It could be that my body was starting to change, that hormones were starting to, come into my body, and that just triggered something. I was also quite unhappy. I'd lost a big friendship group. I was quite lonely, quite isolated. I also want to add here as well, it's not a strange belief, it's my belief. You may not believe this, but I do. I believe that I was always destined to get an eating disorder, depression, anxiety. I was always going to get those when I was born. However, it sort of depends on the circumstance as to when they would manifest. I know I've used manifest a lot, just bear with me. So I could have developed my eating disorder when I was 25. I developed it when I was 8 just because of the circumstances, and I really believe this to be true for anybody, and this is why people develop it at different ages, because there's always sort of a trigger. I believe that the challenges that we are given, the illnesses that we are given, I don't want to say are given on purpose because that could upset a lot of people, but I truly believe, I spent a lot of years being very, very angry about the issues that I have, and it's only until recently I've realised that it's a blessing because it's shaped me into who I am today. It's made me a stronger person, and I now get to do some really, really cool work because of the stuff that I've learnt through doing this. So I just want to sort of say that. So if you're feeling like, I wish this wouldn't happen to me, why me? I want you to stop feeling like that right now. Stop playing the role of victim and start using what you have as a blessing and thinking of how you can use it to your benefit, to benefit your life and the lives of others. Because it is going to be there regardless. You just need to know how to work with it. There is something that I believe, and that is the strongest of us are given the biggest challenges. So I'll say that again because it's important. The strongest of us are given the biggest challenges. So if you're faced with a big challenge right now, just remember that you are strong and you can get over it. Anyway, let's get back to the story. So I was about 12 at the time, and yeah, I started to get very obsessive about things. I started to build up a phobia of getting sick, of getting food poisoning in particular. I've always been funny about vomit, but I started to get really, really bad. Like, I did not want to get sick at all. And so I was very clean, very, very clean, always carried hand sanitizer, always tried to be very proper. And again, these stomach aches arised, and I just was scared now because I had this fear of getting sick, and I kept getting stomach aches again and again and again. And so I was cutting down what I was eating drastically until I think this is what I was eating. I remember having, for a long period of time, 15 grams of sultana bran cereal for breakfast, an apple for lunch. I would have a very small amount of the dinner that my parents cooked or that I cooked for dinner because I didn't want them to know that there was a problem. And that was pretty much it, day in, day out. And I was like a growing child, you know? And this, another side note, people wonder why I'm so small. Guys, I stunted my own growth. Like, that's why I'm 5'1", okay? Like, I was gonna be short anyway. I could have been about 5'3", 5'4", but I stunted my own growth. That's how serious this crap is, alright? So I got very sick and I started to cut out pretty much everything until when I was like at the final stages of being very ill, I was only eating a little bit of protein, fruit and vegetables, and that's pretty much it. It all had to be prepared by me. No one else could touch my food. I was very, very strict about the utensils that I used, about where I used. I wouldn't use glasses at other people's houses and things like that. And I was very, very thin. I don't want to say my weight because that could be quite triggering, and it's not necessary. I was just very, very thin and very, very ill. I have no photos. I'm sorry. I can't show you any sort of shocking photos like a lot of people do because I was in such a bad place that I would have never let a camera anywhere near me. I was very ill. So I went back to that child psychologist and she ran blood tests. Typical me being in denial. I was like, I'll be fine. We got a call from her that night saying I needed to go to the emergency room the next day immediately because I was very close to dying. My potassium levels had dropped to a level where I could have had a heart attack at any minute. My blood pressure, for any of those sciencey people, was 70/50. Keep in mind that a normal blood pressure is 120/80. My heart rate was 42 beats per minute, I believe. It could have been lower, and I had hypothermia. Unfortunately, because I was only 12, I was not able to be accepted into the eating disorder program at another hospital in my state, so I had to go to just a women's and children's hospital, and I did not receive the treatment that I needed. The food was horrendous, and I'm not just saying that from an eating disorder person, it was horrendous. I would hide a lot of it in catalogs. It's very shameful for me to admit, but I would. Funny thing is, I was even caught once and they didn't do anything. I didn't receive any help for my eating disorder whatsoever. The only doctor that came to see me was a gastroenterologist. After the 4 weeks, I had sort of regained enough health. I think I gained about 1 or 2 kilos, literally, if that. But my blood pressure had gone up a bit because it got to the stage where I was having blood pressure checks every 4 hours. They would even have to wake me in the night. Anyway, I went home and again, I wasn't really given any help. I saw a sports dietitian. She didn't really help. I was eating snacks, I was eating meals, but because I was so uneducated about what I needed to fuel my body, I was not eating enough whatsoever, and no one knew because I had no help. And so I kind of just plodded along like this for years. And what I forgot to mention actually was the first time I had the eating disorder when I was 8, I got sent to a dietitian, just a regular, you know, Joe Blow dietitian. And because most dietitians specialise in weight loss and not weight gain for a child, this was my exact meal plan. I am not exaggerating, this is it. So for breakfast I had to have cereal and I had to have this glass, I can still remember the glass, with milk. It had a scoop of sustagen, which Australians, you should know that. It's kind of like a protein powder thing that old people or like nutritionally deplete people have, not very good for you. A scoop of Milo, you should know what that is, and a scoop of polyjule, which is pure carbohydrate. So that in a big glass, it was gross. For recess, I was to have Oreos or like pizza shapes, which are biscuit cracker things. Lunch was a jam or ham sandwich and a fruit bar. Afternoon snack was the same as morning snack, and dinner was just dinner with my parents, which was spaghetti bolognese or schnitzel or something like that. And that's what I had to eat. That was how I was supposed to nourish my body after my eating disorder. Come on, what is the state of our healthcare? Seriously. Anyway, fast forwarding, so I'm just like, my mind's buzzing right now. So I just kind of plodded along for a few years trying to be okay, essentially. Again, I went to England and I had a good time, and that was very helpful for me. And a few years went by where I wasn't happy and I didn't have a lot of friends, but things were okay. I had no real sense of self. I was academically very intelligent, and so I just focused on that. I was known for being smart. I didn't really have any hobbies. I started a part-time job, which was really helpful for me because I finally got to be around people that were a little bit more mature, so a little bit more at my level. I was more mature than my peers. But around 2010, I started to fall back into old habits because I knew I would be moving schools at the end of the year. I knew we were moving house into a different suburb. There was a lot of change happening, and again, I started to sort of develop, and I didn't feel okay with that. I felt afraid of that, and so I clung on to this feeling of wanting to be small, of wanting to disappear, and so I started to lose weight again. I must mention here as well that I never had any obsession with exercise or anything. It was only about trying to just eat as little as possible. I never went days without food. I never fasted or anything. I still ate. I guess I wanted to punish myself for being myself. And that's wrong on so many levels, but I was so ashamed of the person that I was that I wanted to punish myself. And I will admit now that I was not a very nice person, and if you knew me in school, I'm sorry if I ever was rude or mean or harsh. I was never like a bully or anything. I was just I didn't know how to not be serious. That was a problem, but I had a lot of issues with my peers because when I was in hospital in 2007, without my permission, the teachers told the whole of my grade that I was in hospital for anorexia. And at that time, you know, kids, they don't really know about this. They just think, oh, what's she starving herself for, you know? They think, oh, she's crazy, she's gone in hospital for a month. And then I had to have like half days when I went back to school, and I felt extremely isolated after that because people don't understand and people don't want to understand. And that's why I'm making this, so people can start understanding. But I found school very difficult after that. I found being around people very difficult. So I started to relapse quite badly. I was not eating much at all. Then I started at a new school in 2011 and things just went downhill. I just couldn't cope. I got very thin. I started to see an eating disorder psychologist, but I just wasn't really going anywhere. My anxiety started to get very bad at this stage. And in a sense, the anxiety started to overshadow the eating disorder, and so that gave more of my focus. So I wasn't focusing on starving myself, and while I wasn't eating enough to nourish my body, starvation wasn't the main focus anymore. This anxiety was, because the thing with me was I feel on a very big level. If I've ever spoken to you in life, you'll know that sometimes I'm a little frantic, a little full on, and sometimes there are a million thoughts going around in my head. And my way, I've been like this since I was a child, and my way of numbing that was through starving my body. Because if we're not supplying glucose to our brain, then we can't function optimally. And I didn't want to function optimally. I didn't want to be who I was. And so when this anxiety started taking over, I kind of had no choice, and I found out the hard way that starvation would actually make it worse. It's 2011, 2012, and I can't leave the house. I would be getting these physical anxiety attacks. I was in a really bad shape. I remember having a few weeks where I was just completely blank. I didn't know what was going on in my life. I was just numb. My parents had to make food for me, which was probably the first time they've ever had to do that since I was a child. My body stopped absorbing nutrients. I got very ill very quickly. I couldn't sleep. So anything I did eat just was not getting taken in. My skin became extremely bad, and this is actually something I'm going to do a video on next week because I have some other stuff to speak about that. And so I sort of went to a few people to find out what was going on, and they hinted at adrenal fatigue, which no one kind of knows if adrenal fatigue exists. But I took their advice on board and I started to look into ways of holistically healing my body because I didn't want to turn to medication again. Like, I would make sure to always eat salt in the morning. I stopped having fruit in the morning as I was getting a lot of blood sugar crashes. I would sleep with my feet elevated, which I still do every single day. Take Epsom salt baths. I sort of changed my diet around a little bit, and things started to get a little bit better after that. And I think it also helped that I booked a one-way ticket to England. That definitely helped. And then I went to the UK and I had the best 3 months, honestly. I just let down my guard. I ate what I wanted, and I was free for a little while, and that is a very sacred time for me. But of course, when I came home, I fell into quite a depression. I all of a sudden had no school, no job, no friends. I had literally nothing. I had gained weight. I think I gained about 4 kilos. I was at the same weight that I am now, but I had never been a normal weight really at all. And so it felt very uncomfortable for me. It almost felt like I was overweight. I didn't know what to do, and I will show pictures in a minute because the weight that I had gained was essentially all fat. I'm not saying I was fat. I'm saying that because I had lost weight and gained weight a lot for many years, I had no muscle mass. I was very weak. And so essentially my body was just fat. And I will insert a picture here that I have just recently found. So that was me at the same weight that I am now, and you would have seen my progress pictures and know that I look very different right now. What I would do is I would get into this cycle of restricting my intake in like during the day, and then eating a lot at night until I felt sick. It wasn't a binge, it would have just been a big bowl of food, but it was this really negative cycle, and it made me feel really bad about myself, and that sort of started to progress again into more of an eating disorder as I started university, because I had all these changes going on in my life and I was freaking out. And so I started to be a bit stupid with my diet, essentially. I tried going vegan. That lasted a month. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with veganism. I just tried to eliminate a lot of things. I wouldn't eat enough. I would over-exercise, or I would just do too much walking. I did abuse exercise a bit in that relapse. I was not in a good place, and I remember, I can see it in my head. In 2014, I went and saw the eating disorder psychologist again, and I went to his office and I broke down and I said, I need help, I need you to help me. And he said, you need to go to hospital. You need to go to hospital and you need to get treatment. And I just didn't want to do it. And he gave me a meal plan of what it would look like in hospital, and it looked horrendous. And that's when I thought, I need to do this. And so I went home, and it's funny, I went home and all I wanted to do was be numb. So after thinking, yeah, I'm going to do this, I proceeded to still not eat enough because I needed to numb myself to the feelings that I had. Slowly, I started to build myself up and I started to have goals. And I taught myself yoga over this time, so I did a lot of yoga. I did a lot of meditation, a lot of self-development, and I started to gain a bit of weight. I finally found out about calories. I finally found out about what I needed to do to nourish my body, and I started to eat. And I started to eat 2,500 calories, which would be the most I've ever eaten, and I started to build up to that. I started to feel better about myself, and I started to understand things. And it was also in this time that I started seeing my current boyfriend, and he opened me up to a world that I hadn't seen before, and he made me forget that I was the girl with the problems, and I became Amy. For the first time, I was just Amy, and my life started to blossom after that. And he would come to appointments with me and he would encourage me. I will thank him for the rest of my life for that, because I don't know if I could have done it without him. So from this, I grew stronger and stronger, and unfortunately my anxiety started to grow worse. Panic attacks started to become a lot more frequent, but I had the power to be strong enough to fight them. I changed my degree into something I was passionate about. I started studying fitness, I started studying science and health, and I made friends for the first time in my life, like awesome friends. I started up social media and I met people that I will probably be friends with for years. And I finally started to find out who I was and what I wanted to be. And that sort of takes me up to where I am today. Yes, I am on medication for my anxiety. I'm not going to shy away and say that I'm not. It's very low dosage. It's not Xanax or anything. It's just a melatonin type medication. Things are good. Things are really good, and I grow stronger every day, but I have seen the lowest of the lows. I've seen them. I've been there, and I have seen, and I am seeing the highest of the highs, and this is why I'm making this, because I need to let you know that if you're in a low place right now, it is only temporary, and if I can do it, then you can too. And I know a lot of my followers have had these struggles or currently have these struggles, and this is me speaking to you. I know you can do it. You just have to believe in yourself. You have to. It's the number one key, because no one else is going to be able to believe in you if you don't believe in you, because only you know that you can do it. You need to fight. Eating disorders are horrible, horrible diseases in that they're quite hard to treat because everybody has different circumstances, and you need to be honest with yourself, because deep down in your intuition, you know what you need. You know it. I don't know if I'm ever going to be free of an eating disorder. I don't know that. But what I do know is that I have the strength and the courage now to fight whatever comes my way, and I will go in guns a-blazing, but I don't think I will ever struggle with those problems again, because I've been on the journey. And I once read a quote that really resonated with me, and it said, "Nothing ever leaves our life until it's taught us what we have to know." And I am finally at the stage where my eating disorder has taught me what I need to know. It has taught me that yes, I am someone that feels a lot. Yes, I am someone that has a lot of emotions, but I shouldn't shy away from those, and I shouldn't try and get away from those. I should embrace them, because that's who I am as a person, and that's a wonderful thing. In a nutshell, this is my eating disorder story. Obviously, it's just a rundown. There is so much more little intricacies to it, but I don't want to make this video longer than it already is. Just remember to be kind to yourself and to be kind to others, because we're all on a journey and you never know other people's journey. You truly don't. If you've had similar problems, I am sorry you've had to go through them. We can join together and, you know, just give one big cyber hug. And I'm sorry this is kind of a depressing note for the first day of Vlogmas, but like I said, I really want this to be about you getting to know me more, and I think that my story is worth being told, and I needed to do this for myself because I have kept so quiet about it for so long. I hope that you got something out of this. If you do like more of these sort of self-development type talks, please let me know, because it's something I'm very passionate about. If you liked this video, I feel wrong like doing the like, comment, subscribe thing after such a serious video, but honestly it would mean the world to me if you could like or comment this video, because it makes me know that you do like what I have shared and put out there. And tomorrow's video is going to be back to me being crazy, doing stupid things, but I just really wanted to share this story with you all. Thank you for listening. If you got to the end, I appreciate it. I love you all. I owe you all everything, and thank you. This was my story. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and I will see you tomorrow, guys. Thank you. I feel a bit cleansed. I need to go sit down and take a breath, I think. Mwah.